When you are asked that question, so can you tell me a little bit about what your weaknesses are and what you might do to overcome those weaknesses? You know, that question that you're asked in a job interview or a performance review? All right, to answer that question with power, tact, and finesse, and honesty, because you know how some people will answer that question by saying something such as, yeah, one of my weaknesses, I'm a workaholic. Yeah, I'm just too dedicated to work. It's a fault. I'm just too dedicated. And that's just a bunch of bull and everybody knows it. What you want to do is use a very specific strategy. You ready? First of all, you need to be familiar with the 4 basic personality types. That is part of any communication development or professional development program. So if you're not already familiar with the 4 basic types, I suggest you either go to onlinecommunicationtraining.com. It's lesson 7 in the lessons if you enroll there, or go to your local bookstore and get a book on the personality types at work. What you want to familiarize yourself with are the 4 generic names of the basic working styles or personality types. And those are the analyticals, drivers, expressives, and amiables. Those are the 4 basic types in their generic terms. I mean, you don't want to go into a job interview talking about a proprietary personality system that the person who's interviewing you might not be familiar with. But whoever's interviewing you for a job, if they're in a professional environment, 99% of them are going to be familiar with the personality types, therefore so should you, and the generic terms they're going to be familiar with as well. And again, those are the amiables, the drivers, the analyticals, and the expressives. I almost forgot the 4th one. So having said that, it's all based on what your type is. So what you want to do is start off talking about your strengths. Okay, that's step 1. Talk about your strengths. I know they asked you what your weaknesses are, but say, well, I'm a yada 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 personality type. I'm sure you're familiar with the 4 types, and mine is the blankety blank type. Some of my natural strengths are going to be blah blah blah. Things like that come very easily to me. Talk about your strengths first. That's step 1. Step 2 is look at the opposite side of the scale. Find your opposite personality type, figure out what their strengths are, because they're not going to be yours. They're going to be your natural weaknesses, and the person who's interviewing you is going to know that and respect your honesty, and they're going to be familiar with the system. So if you tell them what type you are, they're going to know what your weaknesses are. So you're going to reference the opposite personality type's strengths and say something along the lines of, therefore, because my strengths are yada yada yada, I'm going to have to be sensitive to things such as the opposite strengths and conscious of the opposite strengths. That's step 2. And step 3 is now bringing it back to your strengths again, so that things like that don't overshadow my natural strengths, which again are yada yada yada. So now for your specific example of what you should say when you are asked that question, go ahead and click on whatever your personality type is. If you aren't sure what your personality type is, go ahead and click on all of them. Or if you want to really solidify this tactic and get the verbal patterns down, I do encourage you to click on all of them anyway, because you will see 4 different examples of using this strategy at work. So go ahead now and click on one of the 4 personality types or working styles to hear the exact recommended phrases for you.